Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the rebellion at the Liberal Democrat conference and ask whether there needs to be a discussion within the party about what exactly their purpose is, because it's fair to say that the leadership and membership have had something of a disagreement. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So party conference season, the Liberal Democrats kick it off first, and then it's the Tories next week, then Labour, then the SNP. I'm a Labour supporter, which means that the inner workings of the Lib Dems, being a smaller party that I'm not part of, can sometimes be a bit of a mystery. As such, absolutely love to see comments, particularly from Lib Dem members and supporters, as I go over my own thinking on this one. So for those who don't know, there's been a little bit of friction at the Lib Dem conference. Over the past week, the party leader, Ed Davey, has been, I think, solidifying his strategy for the next general election. Again, especially with a little bit of chirping that it might be sooner rather than later. This strategy has been described as being very focused on the local issues in the seats they wish to target, which are, of course, Conservative seats. As a result, there have been things like campaign leaflets attacking the Tories for trying to build more homes than the Lib Dems. Can you imagine? Which is, of course, pandering to NIMBYism, which the party members, understandably, are not very happy about. It has involved emphasising that people are not really talking about Brexit, which in the context of deciding how to use general election votes, I'm afraid is the case. But it's now extended to the Lib Dems saying that their priority is not rejoining the EU, and with Ed Davey refusing to say whether it is even the party's long-term intention to rejoin in an interview. And Davey is doing this, of course, because he's trying to target Conservative voters with Conservative values who might be persuaded to swap their Tory trough muncher for a more pragmatic and, above all, dedicated Lib Dem MP. But the membership, not best pleased. And when Davey put a proposal to scrap national targets for house building, the delegates at the conference strongly rejected it. Now, this is quite a big deal because this may well be the last conference before the general election. In fact, it's possible that the election will be, very, very soon. We don't know, by the way. I'm not suggesting that this is now likely. I don't know, but it's possible that there is this friction between membership and leadership when the election may just be a few weeks away and the Lib Dems are poised to bring in a much more respectable haul of seats for the first time since 2010. This is suboptimal at best. But who is right? Now, as was the case with Labour, I will say it's not clear that the Lib Dems are getting their strategy right, but the thinking is strategic. These days, although you wouldn't say Labour are getting everything right, it would be absolutely ridiculous to suppose that they're not getting almost everything right because they are consistently dominating the polls. And there's an interesting comparison to be made with the Lib Dems and Labour here. So Labour members are not ecstatic about some of the policies that the party is adopting. Obviously, broad church and all that, and there's always quite a lot of disagreement on a lot of the policies. But there are some policies where the bulk of the membership really don't think it's the right policy. But we've been in opposition for over 13 years. We're a bit tired of it. We have looked on in horror at the destruction that the Tories have caused our country and communities, and we're back in that phase of wanting it to end. And we're prepared to be pragmatic about how you need to do that. In other words, Labour members are going along with the odd policy that doesn't sit right because there's like 100 more that we're eagerly looking forward to, and that is because Labour are going to form the next government. The belief is there. But what are the Lib Dems fighting for? There are some that still hold out hope for being kingmakers. There's no evidence in the polls that a hung parliament is going to happen. But let's say it were. Let's say that were possible. Well, then the Lib Dems would need as many seats as possible, wouldn't they? Can't be kingmakers with like 20 seats. You want 40, 50. But if they're able to understand the polls and they know the prize on offer is simply more representation in Parliament, what do they think the party's for? Davey clearly thinks that whatever the party is for, the way to achieve its aims is with as many MPs as possible. Hence, the strategic adoption of these policies, again, whether right or wrong, to try and maximise the number of seats they can win. Now, I try and put myself in the position of being in a party where power is not realistically an aim. And I can see how I might want my party to therefore be the one that has the conversations that those having to appeal to a broader range of voters can't have. Right now, the big one would be Brexit. But there are a few policy areas where our media misinform the public on, and so the parties actually trying to win enough votes to form a government, Labour and the Conservative Party, have to be a little bit circumspect, because they can't tell all these voters, no, you're completely wrong, sit down and behave. But I can see how Lib Dem members maybe think their party doesn't have to play that game. It's tricky though, isn't it? When the Lib Dems want to talk about something like, say, Brexit, to counter the misinformation, they're ignored by the media. Now, the media do have to give the Lib Dems a voice in proportion to their electoral success. But right now, that's not much of a voice because they don't have much electoral success behind them. And here's the dilemma, really. If the Lib Dems win way more seats, they can demand way more attention from the media. But what if the way to win way more seats is to play the political game normally dominated by Labour and the Conservatives? It's like there's a balance potentially. If you adapt your message, let's say, in order to target more types of voter, as Ed Davey's trying to do, and therefore more seats, then you get to amplify your message. But the amplified message will then not always be the one you most want to get out there. But if you maintain the purity of your message and you're able to talk more honestly about thorny issues, then you narrow your appeal at election time, don't win as many votes, and the media can reduce the spread of your voice. They can ignore you more often. But it's also clear that this debate about where the balance should lie has not actually taken place within the party. Like Labour, the Lib Dems are looking forward to the next general election. The current MPs expect to be heavily outnumbered by new colleagues, and they expect to have a government with whom they can work more constructively with than the current one. This conference should be, just as it's expected to be for Labour in a couple of weeks, fine-tuning. And although there was some positive things coming out of it, any hint of strife in politics is always way more newsworthy. But beyond how it looks, it is still a problem if the Lib Dem leadership has been working on a particular strategy and is now unleashing that strategy and is now being cock-blocked by the party members. And that's not a criticism of the members, but of Davey. Like in the Conservative Party, the leader can do as they like. This is why Sunak has been able to make policies up on the fly, as he's clearly been doing the last week or so. Doesn't matter what the members think. He doesn't have to care what the members think. In fact, recently, it doesn't even seem to matter what his cabinet thinks. He's just adopted policies and that's that. He's not worried about members voting it down at the Tory Party conference next week. They're not going to be invited to vote it down. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad system if your aim is to win elections. Granted, Sunak is not trying to win the election, which is where their system sort of falls down. But if you have a leader focused on winning, then giving them agency over policy is essential if you're trying to build a broad level of support in the country. Because do you know what? The party members are not sitting down in strategy meetings looking at the polling and being given sensible analysis of it. They're just going with their gut and what their echo chamber has said they agree with them on. But right or wrong, the Lib Dem system of needing policies ratified by the wider party means that Davey should not have changed a series of policies very suddenly, without any debate, just before a crucial party conference. So whether Davey's right or wrong to try to change these policies, he should have engaged first and built up consensus, because he's in a party where consensus isn't merely beneficial, it's mandatory. It now means if Sunak does call an election, Ed Davey potentially has to chuck his intended strategy in the bin and find a new one pronto. Perhaps a learning point for the Lib Dems needs to be to have a real discussion about what sort of party they are. If there is antagonism between the message they would like to project and the size of their parliamentary representation, which the party should favour, have that debate. Because I don't know how people inside the Lib Dems feel, but I'm not sure that conversation's really taking place. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.